Now, this may be hard, but this is where science might lead us to shift some of our habits, and it's worth testing out to see if it makes a difference for your energy levels, your productivity, and your ability to focus. Hi there, Kelsey Toner here, the founder of Guest Focused Tour Business Coaching, where every day myself and our team of extraordinary tour business mentors are helping you build a thriving, profitable tour business. Welcome back to our series on productivity. How to be more productive as a tour business entrepreneur. And as a reminder, this isn't about just getting more work done. This is about getting out of reactive mode and instead being a lot more judicious with our time, our energy, and our focus. Because if we can reduce some of that chaos, if we can reduce some of that overwhelm, and we ensure that we're making time for the work that is most important. In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about biology and the science of productivity. Let's get after it. Okay, I want you to be honest for a second. How many days of the week on average do you hit that mid-afternoon mark, 2 or 3 p.m., and your brain just turns to mush? Or how many days do you wake up exhausted before the day even starts? Or how many times are you just pushing through your peak season, running on caffeine and adrenaline, and you crash hard the moment that it ends? Here's what so many people forget about productivity is that it's not just about systems or tools or software, but it's also a lot to do with biology. If your energy is unstable, no productivity hack or best practice is going to save you. So today we're going to talk about the science of energy and how to work with your body instead of against it. A lot of productivity advice treats you like a machine. And we input tasks and we output results, optimize the system, get more done. But we are not machines. We are a biological organism with rhythms, with hormones, with energy cycles. And if those are out of whack, it doesn't matter how good your system is. Think about the last time that you sat down to do important work when you were overtired, just exhausted. How did that go? Probably not that great. Maybe we just stare at a screen. I know that's what I typically do. I have the position of doing work, but I'm not actually doing work. And maybe a task that should have taken 30 minutes ends up taking 2.5 hours. And now think about a time when you were rested, where you were sharp. That same work probably felt easy. Ideas came faster. It was easier to get into that flow state, and decisions came easier. Same person, same task, but completely different outcomes. The variable wasn't your system or your productivity best practice, it was your energy. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist and Stanford professor who has a very popular podcast, studies the brain and performance, and he puts it simply: focus and productivity are downstream of energy and biology. So the goal of this video is to go through some of the recommendations that are backed up by scientific studies for helping you be more productive and balancing your energy. And if you haven't listened to Andrew Huberman or the Huberman Lab podcast before, and you are interested in this topic, I would highly recommend checking it out. He goes deep on a lot of these topics. The goal here today is really to give you 4 or 5 of these best practices that are backed up by scientific studies. All right, let's first talk about your circadian rhythm. Your body essentially runs on a 24-hour cycle called a circadian rhythm. It controls when you feel alert, when you feel tired, when your hormones release, when your body temperature rises and falls. And when your circadian rhythm is dialed in, energy feels stable. You wake up alert. You have sustained focus during the day. You get tired at night when we're supposed to, and you sleep well. When this rhythm, this cycle is disrupted, a lot of things suffer. We're groggy in the morning, we crash in the afternoon, we might be wired at night when we should be winding down. So part of what we want to do here is stick to that same cycle or rhythm as much as possible. And of course, certain times of the year, or if we're traveling, we're going to have to shift that cycle. That's totally okay. But by and large, the closer we stick to this rhythm, this cycle, these habits that we're going to be exploring here today, the more we're going to be working with our body instead of against it. Huberman's research shows that the single most important factor in regulating your circadian rhythm is actually light exposure, which is something that probably not a lot of us had thought about before. So the research shows that if you can get bright light in your eyes within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up, ideally natural sunlight when available, stepping outside for 10 minutes without sunglasses and letting that light hit your eyes triggers a cortisol spike. Not the stress kind, but the healthy kind that wakes up your brain and sets your internal clock for the whole day. Now, if you live somewhere dark in the winter, a light therapy lamp can help, but nothing beats that actual sunlight when it's available. And just kind of contrast this with the way that many of us actually start our days, which is by checking our phone first thing in the morning, or we scroll there in bed. We stay inside until we have to leave or look at a monitor. And that's backwards. The phone can wait. That morning light shouldn't. Those first minutes of the day set the tone for your energy, focus, and sleep quality for the next 24 hours. All right, what other findings have we found? Well, let's talk about coffee and caffeine. And this one might be a little bit more controversial. Most of us reach for that caffeine or coffee first thing in the morning and feels like it helps, but it might actually be making your energy worse. Here's the science. When you wake up, your body is going to naturally release cortisol to make you alert. This process takes about 90 minutes to peak. And if we drink coffee immediately, science shows that the caffeine interferes with this natural process. You get a spike, and we get that crash, which is often why we're reaching for that second cup of coffee mid-morning. Over time, we can come obviously more and more dependent on caffeine just to feel normal in the morning. So Huberman's recommendation, and I've tested this myself, is to delay your first coffee or your first tea or caffeine by 90 minutes after waking. Let your natural cortisol do its job, and then you can supplement with caffeine on top of it. When you delay this caffeine, two things happen. First, your mornings become more stable, less jittery spike, less mid-morning crash. And second, caffeine actually works better because you're not fighting your own biology. Now, this may be hard, but this is where science might lead us to shift some of our habits, and it's worth testing out to see if it makes a difference for your energy levels, your productivity, and your ability to focus. That morning coffee ritual is sacred for a lot of people, but try it for 1 week. Have your water, get that sunlight if you can, do your first focus block, and then have your coffee. You might be surprised at how much better your energy feels throughout the whole day. All right, let's keep rolling through some of these biological basics. First, how we start with eating actually matters a great deal. A breakfast heavy on sugar and simple carbs, think pastries, cereal, toast with jam, can spike our blood sugar and sets us up for a productivity crash mid-morning. Whereas a protein-forward breakfast, eggs, Greek yogurt, meat, nuts, provide much steadier energy. Your blood sugars stay more stable, and your brain has amino acids it needs for neurotransmitter production. Now, we don't have to be obsessive about this, and everyone's morning routines and diets shift. But if you are crashing mid-morning or feeling foggy after breakfast, look at what you ate. The answer is often right there. Another one is of movement and exercise. Sitting for hours tanks our energy, and our body just isn't designed for it. Even a 5-minute walk or some stretching can reset your nervous system and restore some of that alertness. The Pomodoro method, where you have working for 25 minutes and then a 5-minute break, is one of the more popular methods for reminding you to get up and move your body around. This is especially true in the afternoon when your circadian rhythm naturally dips. Instead of fighting the dip with more caffeine, take a short walk outside. Light movement is a powerful combination for clearing some of that fog. The next recommendation is, of course, having to do with consistent wake times. When you wake up, and the consistency with which you do it allows your circadian rhythm to have some predictability. If we wake up at 6 a.m. on weekdays, 9 a.m. on weekends, you're essentially giving yourself a kind of a jet lag every start of the week. So Huberman recommends from the studies that they've done, keeping your wake time to within an hour, even on weekends if you can. It might feel restrictive at first, but your energy will become much more stable and predictable when your body knows what to expect. Now, many of you are probably thinking about peak season. Hey, this all sounds great, but I run a tour business. Remember, peak season is often chaos. I don't control when I wake up. I barely have time to eat. And look, I get it. Tour operators face biological challenges that a lot of people don't. We get that you might have early morning departures, or your schedule is shifting a lot, or making high stakes decisions all running on just 5 hours of sleep. But this is exactly why this stuff matters. We know, and the recommendation here is not to hold yourself to some standard that we can't achieve. We can't always control our schedule during those peak seasons especially, but you can control some of the basics, like getting light early, delaying caffeine when possible, eating protein instead of a muffin or a high-carb morning diet, moving your body between tours, and really trying to have that consistent bedtime and wake-up time. Don't think of these as luxuries, but they're how you can survive that peak season without crashing at the end of it. We're really talking here about energy management and trying not to fight our bodies, but instead set ourselves up for success. Now, if you're one of those people that kind of approach these types of health best practices as like, well, they're nice to have. Yeah, I should go to the gym more. Yeah, I should do this and that. I want you to just take a moment to appreciate that you might be paying much more of a price than you realize. Because research shows that sleep deprivation, having that low energy and brain fog, impairs your judgment similarly to the way alcohol does. you're making important decisions for your family, for your business development decisions, pricing decisions, profitability decisions, hiring decisions with an impaired brain. And that has a real cost if we're looking at how to have success as a tour business owner. Burnout isn't just about working too much. It's about depleting your biological resources faster than you can restore them. The tour operators who thrive long-term aren't the ones who grind the hardest. They're the ones who are able to protect their energy like it's a business asset, to set themselves up for success. And that might mean figuring out those rhythms and patterns that work for you personally. But don't think of this as a nice to have. There are real consequences for not taking this seriously. Okay, let's take some action. We're going to work with our body over the next week. So what were those science-backed recommendations? First, we're going to try and get that bright light in our eyes within 30 minutes of waking up if we can. We can use those SAD lights or seasonal effectiveness disorder lights to get that bright light to have a similar effect. Second, we're going to test out delaying our caffeine. If you're one of those folks that takes that espresso shot or that first caffeine right away, encouraging you to wait 90 minutes. We're going to leverage the natural cortisol that you have in your body. And we're going to assess if that makes a difference for your energy. We're going to have a look at our breakfast. If we're starting the day with a lot of sugar or carbs, and that could be, just 2 heaping tablespoons of sugar in a muffin, that can set you up for that crash. So try swapping it out for some protein or even holding off on that breakfast. Finally, of course, we want to have those regular routines. If we can have our going to bed time and our wake up times more consistent, then our energy levels and circadian rhythm is going to be more balanced over time. Moving our body, having that regular exercise can re-energize us, especially mid-afternoon. And if all of that feels pretty overwhelming, well, pick one of them and see if it makes a difference to your energy. Remember, this can become your competitive advantage. If you are able to be twice as productive as your competitors, that's going to make a big difference. And that difference compounds week after week, month after month, and year after year. If you're interested in how you can be more productive as a tour business owner, I'd like to personally invite you to book a free strategy call with one of our tour business coaches. These are industry mentors who have, over the course of their long careers in this industry, figured out how to get the most out of their day, how to work with their bodies instead of against it. And we love to have a second set of eyes on your work as an entrepreneur. And we all know that work as an entrepreneur is not just our work life, it is also our personal life. It is also what we eat. It is also how we sleep. All of these things are going to impact how effective we are at business, how successful we can be with our goals. You can learn more and grab that free call at guestfocus.com/book a call. If you haven't seen the Andrew Huberman podcast and this stuff is really lighting you up, highly recommend checking it out. He does deep dives on everything from alcohol to marijuana use to circadian rhythms and more. These were some of the highlights to get you started. In the comments down below, is there a habit or routine that you've used to help you balance out your energy and be more effective and focused and productive during the day? We'd love to hear it. If you're enjoying this series, it would mean the world to me if you'd share it with a friend or colleague. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.